August 9th, 1942. The jungle treetops near the Lunga River, Guadalcanal. Private First Class. James Henderson had been walking in front for exactly 4 minutes when the back of Corporal William Morrison's head exploded 3 feet in front of him. No sound came before the shot. No gun flash showed where the shooter was. The group of 12 Marines from 1st Battalion, 5th Regiment dropped to the ground, looking at trees that had 300 possible shooting spots within 50 yards. For the next 40 minutes, they stayed trapped by an enemy they could not find, could not stop, and could not kill. 3 more Marines would die trying to move forward. 2 more would die trying to go back. When the invisible shooter finally stopped firing and disappeared into the jungle, Henderson realized something that would shape the next 3 years of Pacific fighting. The U.S. Marine Corps had no idea how to fight this kind of war. Before we dive into how Marines changed from helpless victims into the most deadly counter-sniper force in the Pacific, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss these untold stories of tactical changes that shaped World War II. The Americans called it jungle fever, the freezing fear of knowing that death could come from any direction without warning. In those first weeks on Guadalcanal, Marine deaths from Japanese sniper fire were higher than deaths from direct fighting. Groups moved through the jungle expecting surprise attacks, but finding something worse: careful murder. Japanese snipers didn't announce themselves with a rattle of machine guns or the clear crack of rifle shots. They fired once, killed once, and disappeared. Lieutenant Colonel Merritt Edson reported to Division Headquarters on August 12th that his 1st Raider Battalion had lost 47 men in 6 days without ever clearly spotting a single enemy sniper position. The numbers were terrible. An invisible enemy was killing the Marines faster than they could learn to fight back. The jungle itself worked against normal tactics. The rainforest treetops on Guadalcanal rose 150 feet, creating a 3-level battlefield where height meant advantage and hiding was total. Marines trained to fight from holes in the ground and move across open ground found themselves exposed from above, below, and every direction at once. Corporal Eugene Sledge, who would survive Peleliu and Okinawa, later wrote that the jungle wasn't land, it was the enemy's weapon. Japanese snipers understood this land with perfect knowledge. They had trained in similar jungles throughout the South Pacific for years. American Marines, by contrast, had done exactly 0 jungle warfare training exercises before landing on Guadalcanal. The killing numbers told the story in blood. During the first month of fighting on Guadalcanal, Japanese snipers had an estimated kill ratio of 8-to-1. 8 Marine deaths for every sniper killed. Marine riflemen fired thousands of bullets trying to stop an enemy they couldn't see, wasting precious ammunition while achieving almost no results. Battalion commanders filed desperate requests for counter-sniper training, special equipment, and fighting rules that didn't yet exist. Captain John Sweeney of F Company, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines wrote in his after-action report, "We are fighting blind. The enemy sees everything. We see nothing until it's too late." Division intelligence guessed that a single skilled Japanese sniper could trap an entire Marine platoon for hours, disrupting operations far beyond the immediate deaths caused. The mental impact multiplied the tactical effect. Marines began hesitating before moving through jungle trails. Patrols slowed to crawls. Aggressiveness, the Marine Corps' defining quality, withered under invisible threat. Yet, within this crucible of deaths and confusion, patterns began appearing. Marines who survived multiple encounters with Japanese snipers started recognizing subtle clues. Disturbed leaves that looked almost natural. Unnaturally straight lines in trees with camouflage netting hung. The faint metal reflection of a rifle scope at certain sun angles. Sergeant Mitchell Page, who would win the Medal of Honor on Guadalcanal, noted that Japanese snipers rarely change positions right after firing, trusting their camouflage over moving. This overconfidence would become their first weakness that could be used. But Marines had to survive long enough to learn these lessons. And in August 1942, survival itself was far from guaranteed. The price of learning was measured in body bags. Henderson's patrol lost 6 men to a single sniper in 40 minutes. Across the island, similar stories multiplied. The Marines were fighting an enemy who had mastered the jungle while they were still learning its alphabet. The question wasn't whether they could adapt. Marines always adapted. The question was whether they could adapt fast enough to survive long enough to win. The answer would take 3 years, 13 major island battles, and new ideas born from desperation. But first, they had to understand exactly what they were fighting against. The Japanese sniper wasn't just a skilled shooter. He was a weapon system designed specifically to use every American weakness. And that weapon system was about to teach the Marine Corps the most expensive lessons in its history. Understanding how Marines eventually defeated Japanese snipers requires understanding what made those snipers so deadly effective in the first place. The Imperial Japanese Army didn't stumble into sniper excellence. They built it through a training system that began years before Pearl Harbor. Japanese sniper doctrine came from their brutal campaigns in China during the 1930s, where Japanese forces learned that precise shooters could terrorize enemy formations far beyond their numbers. By 1941, the IJA had written these lessons into a complete sniper training program that produced some of the most skilled jungle fighters in military history. The men who would torment Marines on Guadalcanal weren't just good shots. They were the products of a selection and training system designed to create invisible killers. Japanese sniper candidates went through screening that eliminated 90% of applicants. The Imperial Army looked for men with specific mental profiles, extreme patience, comfort with being alone, and the ability to stay completely still for hours. Physical requirements were equally demanding. Candidates needed exceptional eyesight, 20/10 or better without glasses, and the hand-eye coordination to hit man-sized targets at 400 meters consistently. Those who passed initial screening entered a 6-month training program at facilities like the one near Hiroshima, where instructors transformed good riflemen into jungle phantoms. The curriculum emphasized fieldcraft over marksmanship. Japanese doctrine believed that any soldier could be taught to shoot accurately. Creating a sniper who could survive in enemy territory for days while staying undetected required different skills entirely. The training program's jungle phase lasted 8 weeks and took place in conditions designed to copy Pacific combat environments. Trainees learned to build tree hides that blended perfectly with natural vegetation. They practiced staying completely still in uncomfortable positions for 6-hour stretches while instructors tried to spot them from 50 yards. They studied the behavior of jungle birds and insects, learning which sounds meant human presence and which were natural. Perhaps most importantly, they mastered the art of patience. Japanese sniper doctrine emphasized waiting for the perfect shot rather than shooting multiple targets. One kill that created maximum mental impact was worth more than 3 kills that revealed position. This patience would prove devastatingly effective against Americans used to aggressive action. The equipment Japanese snipers carried reflected their tactical doctrine. The Type 97 sniper rifle, a modified Arisaka with a 2.5x telescopic sight, focused on reliability over precision. Japanese armorers understood that jungle conditions, heat, humidity, rain, mud, would damage weapon performance rapidly. The Type 97 sacrificed some accuracy for the ability to work after days of exposure to weather. Snipers typically carried only 60 rounds of ammunition, reinforcing the doctrine of patience and precision. They added rifle work with camouflage materials that would shock American observers. Japanese snipers used live vegetation woven into their uniforms daily, making sure their camouflage matched the current environment perfectly. Some snipers reportedly added bird feathers, bark, and even spider webs into their concealment. The effect was near-perfect invisibility at ranges beyond 30 yards. Tactical doctrine emphasized mental warfare as much as physical deaths. Japanese snipers targeted specific individuals, officers, radio operators, medics, to create maximum disruption. They learned to identify American unit structures and pick targets accordingly. A typical shooting pattern involved shooting the last Marine in a patrol, then waiting for the unit to investigate before shooting the next target. This pattern trapped units in place and multiplied terror. Snipers also used disturbing mental tactics. They sometimes allowed patrols to pass without shooting, then shot stragglers from behind. They targeted Marines during vulnerable moments, while eating, sleeping, or using the bathroom. These tactics weren't random cruelty. They were calculated to create an environment of constant dread where no moment felt safe. The Japanese also understood something Americans initially missed. Sniper teams were force multipliers in jungle terrain. Intelligence reports from Guadalcanal suggest Japanese commanders positioned snipers in mutually supporting positions, creating overlapping shooting areas that made counter-sniper operations suicidal. When Marines tried to stop one sniper position, another would shoot from a different angle. This tactic transformed individual snipers into a coordinated defensive system. Some Japanese units deployed snipers in groups of 3 to 5 with specific roles: primary shooter, spotter, and security elements. This teamwork approach meant that even if Marines found one sniper, others stayed hidden to continue harassment. Perhaps most critically, Japanese snipers benefited from exceptional tactical patience, supported by supply preparation. Snipers positioned in trees often carried water and rice balls enough for 48 to 72 hours. They would tie themselves to branches to avoid falling if wounded or exhausted. Some were given morphine to stop pain if injured, allowing them to stay silent even when wounded. American intelligence reports from captured documents revealed that some snipers had orders to stay in position until killed, accepting death rather than retreat. This fanatic dedication created situations where Marines would clear an area, advance, and then get fired on from snipers who had stayed hidden during the initial sweep. The cultural dimension made the tactical challenge bigger. Japanese military culture emphasized individual sacrifice for group success, making snipers willing to accept near-certain death to cause maximum deaths. Many snipers viewed their mission as sacred duty. They understood that even if they died in position, the hours they trapped American units and the deaths they caused served big-picture purposes. American Marines used to valuing individual survival, and returning fire found themselves fighting an enemy operating under completely different mental rules. You couldn't stop a Japanese sniper through superior firepower if that sniper was willing to die rather than reveal position. You couldn't intimidate an enemy who embraced death as honorable sacrifice. By late 1942, Marine intelligence had put together detailed reports on Japanese sniper abilities. But understanding the enemy didn't immediately translate to defeating them. The invisible killing would continue through Tarawa, Saipan, and into the Philippines. Japanese snipers had mastered their craft over years. American Marines would have to squeeze equivalent learning into months, adapting under fire while deaths mounted. The education was about to begin in earnest, paid for in blood and measured in the brutal math of trial and error. Every mistake cost lives. Every lesson learned came wrapped in a body bag. But Marines were learning. The change from prey to predator began not with brilliant tactical innovation, but with grim number analysis and desperate improvisation. By November 1942, Marine Corps headquarters on Guadalcanal had put together death data that told a brutal story. Japanese snipers were causing losses way out of proportion to their numbers, and normal infantry tactics were failing terribly. Major General Alexander Vandegrift, commanding the 1st Marine Division, authorized a radical departure from standard doctrine. If Japanese snipers operated as specialists with unique training and equipment, Americans would have to create equivalent specialists. The Marine Corps had no sniper training program, no special equipment stockpile, and no organizational knowledge of counter-sniper operations. They would have to invent everything from scratch, and they would do it while fighting a war. The first American counter-sniper teams were put together through brutal natural selection. Officers identified Marines who had survived multiple jungle patrols, showed exceptional marksmanship, and had the mental stability to operate in small, isolated teams. These weren't volunteers pulled from comfortable rear areas. They were survivors who had already proven themselves in the worst conditions imaginable. Sergeant John Basilone, who would win the Medal of Honor at Guadalcanal, helped select men for early counter-sniper training. His standards were simple. Find me the 3 calmest Marines in the company who can hit a Jap at 300 yards. These early teams got no formal training because no training program existed. They learned through experiment, observation, and painful losses. The equipment situation was equally improvised. The Marine Corps entered the Pacific War without a standardized sniper rifle. The primary American infantry weapon, the M1 Garand, was an excellent battle rifle but poorly suited for precision marksmanship at long ranges. Its semi-automatic action and en bloc clip system created noise and movement that gave away positions. Early Marine counter-snipers used whatever they could scrounge. Springfield 1903 rifles with commercial hunting scopes, Winchester Model 70 rifles bought privately, even captured Japanese Type 97s. The 8 Unertl scope, which would become standard equipment by 1944, didn't arrive in theater until mid-1943. Marines made do with 2.5x and 4x scopes of varying quality. Some early counter-sniper teams operated with iron sights alone, relying on fieldcraft and patience to close ranges where optical sights became unnecessary. The learning process was methodical and bloody. Marines began writing down every sniper encounter, building a database of tactics, positions, and patterns. Captain William Hawkins, an intelligence officer with the 2nd Marine Division, created what he called sniper probability maps for Tarawa, marking every position where Japanese snipers had operated in previous island assaults. These maps revealed patterns invisible to individual units. Japanese snipers favored specific tree species that offered both height and concealment. They positioned themselves along likely American advance routes, particularly near water sources and supply dumps. They avoided open areas where American artillery could stop them efficiently. By identifying these patterns, Marines could predict likely sniper positions and either avoid them or prepare specific counters. Tactical innovation came from desperate necessity. On Tarawa in November 1943, Marine engineers began using flamethrowers against suspected sniper positions in coconut trees. The results were spectacularly effective and mentally devastating. A single burst from an M2 flamethrower could cover a 30-foot section of tree canopy, forcing snipers to reveal themselves or die. The tactic required careful coordination. Flamethrower operators were obvious targets, but it solved the fundamental problem of shooting an enemy you couldn't precisely locate. If you couldn't see the sniper, you could burn his entire possible position. This crude but effective approach killed dozens of Japanese snipers across the Tarawa operation. More importantly, it forced Japanese snipers to abandon their preferred tree positions for ground-level hides, where Marines had better chances of detection. At the same time, Marines developed 2-man counter-sniper teams modeled loosely on Japanese tactics. One Marine served as spotter, scanning for clues while the shooter stayed ready to shoot. These teams operated separately from main units, stalking suspected sniper positions with the same patience Japanese snipers used. The mental shift was crucial. Instead of reacting to sniper attacks, Marines began actively hunting snipers. The tactic required immense discipline. Counter-sniper teams might watch a suspected position for hours, waiting for the smallest sign of occupation. Lieutenant William Dean, who led a counter-sniper platoon on Saipan, described the experience. You become part of the jungle. You don't move, don't think, just watch. When you see that one leaf move wrong, that's when you've got him. By mid-1944, the Marine Corps had established formal sniper training at Camp Lejeune and Camp Pendleton. The 8-week course taught fieldcraft, camouflage, stalking, advanced marksmanship, and range estimation. Instructors included Marines who had survived multiple Pacific campaigns and brought real combat experience into training. The program produced roughly 350 trained Marine snipers before war's end, a tiny number compared to Japanese sniper strength. But these Americans were force multipliers. A single trained Marine sniper could take out multiple Japanese positions, eliminating the enemy's number advantage through superior training and equipment. Technology began shifting the balance decisively in America's favor. The M1C and M1D sniper variants of the Garand rifle reached the Pacific in late 1944, giving Marines semi-automatic firepower in a precision platform. The improvement over bolt-action rifles was revolutionary. Marine snipers could shoot multiple targets rapidly or take a second shot before a Japanese sniper could move. Additionally, the Marine Corps used M2 Browning 50 caliber machine guns specifically for counter-sniper work. The massive 50 BMG round could go through tree trunks and palm logs that stopped smaller caliber weapons. Marines learned to shoot at suspected sniper positions with 50 cal fire, either killing snipers outright or forcing them to reveal positions. The mental impact was severe. Japanese snipers used to near invulnerability now faced weapons that could kill them through their cover. Artillery forward observers began calling fire missions specifically for sniper suppression. while using 105 mid-or howitzer fire to shoot a single sniper was extravagant. It proved effective. On Peleliu in September 1944, Marine artillery conducted over 200 fire missions against identified or suspected sniper positions. The tactic worked because Japanese snipers often operated from reinforced positions, bunkers, caves, concrete pillboxes that small arms couldn't penetrate. A single 105mm high explosive round eliminated positions that might otherwise have trapped Marines for hours. The doctrine shifted from precision counter-sniper operations to overwhelming firepower. If you couldn't locate the exact position of a sniper within a 50-meter area, you could destroy that entire 50-meter area. American industrial capacity made such extravagance possible. Close air support added another dimension to counter-sniper operations. Marine Corsair pilots began conducting strafing runs against suspected sniper positions marked by ground units. The mental impact of a 2,000-pound aircraft diving at 300 mph while firing 650 caliber machine guns proved as valuable as the physical destruction caused. Japanese snipers who survived air attacks often left position too early, making themselves vulnerable to ground forces. The integration of air, artillery, and infantry created a combined arms approach to counter-sniper warfare that Japanese forces couldn't match. They had trained individual snipers to excellence. Americans created a system that made individual excellence not enough. By 1945, the tactical situation had reversed completely. On Okinawa, the last major island campaign, Marine snipers achieved kill ratios exceeding 15-1, nearly double what Japanese snipers had achieved in 1942. Marine scout sniper platoons hunted Japanese positions with ruthless efficiency. They used lessons learned across 3 years of island warfare, understanding vegetation patterns, recognizing fake camouflage, identifying shooting lanes, predicting positions based on terrain analysis. Japanese snipers, still using tactics perfected in 1941, found themselves predictable and vulnerable. The hunters had become the hunted. American Marines who once feared every jungle shadow now moved through terrain with confidence, knowing their own snipers provided overwatch and that Japanese counterparts were running out of places to hide. The cost of this education was staggering. Marine deaths from Japanese sniper fire across the Pacific campaigns totaled an estimated 4,200 killed and 7,800 wounded, more than 12,000 casualties caused by an enemy specialty unit numbering perhaps 2,000 individuals at peak strength. But the final accounting favored American adaptation. By war's end, Marine counter-sniper operations had killed an estimated 8,500 Japanese snipers and forced countless others to abandon effective positions or change tactics. The kill ratio had reversed. The invisible enemy had become visible. And the Marines who learned these lessons in the worst classrooms imaginable, the jungles of Guadalcanal, the caves of Peleliu, the ridges of Okinawa, had changed from helpless victims into the most deadly light infantry force in the Pacific. The change wasn't elegant or sophisticated. It was brutal, improvisational, and soaked in blood. Marines learned because they had no choice. They adapted because the alternative was death. They innovated because no one would innovate for them. 3 years of war had turned frightened young men, pinned down by invisible killers, into hunters who owned the jungle as completely as their enemies once had. The price was terrible. The lessons were eternal. And the Japanese sniper, once the terror of Pacific jungles, learned too late that Americans possessed something more valuable than perfect camouflage or fanatic dedication. They possessed the ability to learn faster than their enemy could kill them. In the math of attrition warfare, that was the only advantage that mattered. The lesson lives on in modern military doctrine. Technical excellence means nothing without the ability to adapt. The Japanese sniper program of 1941 was arguably superior to anything American forces had. But superiority is temporary. Adaptation is permanent. The Marines who learned this lesson in Pacific jungles paid for it with years of their lives and thousands of their brothers. What they gained was the knowledge that no enemy, no matter how skilled or terrifying, can defeat an opponent who refuses to stop learning. That's not inspiration. That's mathematics. And mathematics, in the end, always wins. What surprised you most about how Marines changed from victims to victors in the sniper war? Was it the brutal learning curve, the improvised tactics, or the final kill ratio reversal? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed discovering this untold story of tactical change in the Pacific, give this video a like. It helps other history enthusiasts find these deep dives into World War II's hidden battles. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next exploration of the moments that changed history. There are so many more stories of American ingenuity and adaptation waiting to be told.